the world of Lan, a great war between the continents of Ebros and Alkesh is forcibly brought to an end by the Tempest, a cataclysmic storm that rages over the surrounding oceans. An uneasy peace has since been made, but over the last 2 centuries a cold war has frozen the hearts of many. The ice is brittle, and 4 adventurers must seek the hammer that can shatter that peace before someone else does. Welcome, dear viewer, to A Debt to a Friend, a homebrew campaign.
Because I've not been able to attend the past session, or session and a half, or 2 sessions, I have not been able to really make as many comprehensive notes as I would normally like, but thankfully, one of our players, Cornelius Bonaparte's player, has spent about the past 2 hours manually typing up the notes in Discord, which I will probably be reading the entirety of. But I do very much appreciate that, and I must say as well, if you are watching this, you don't need to do this every single time. It's a lot of work, and I'd rather do it, throughout the game. And, I mean, I'll have to show my notes. They're just basically just bullet points and things that happened. So yeah, so because I wasn't able to attend the previous sessions, my notes aren't as comprehensive, but I will try and provide as much information as I can. And thankfully I was able to actually get involved in some combat in session 2.5. Moving swiftly on. So the party, deciding that they're going to indeed go on this quest, embark on this quest to find the Temple of Vulca and find its namesake hammer, we decide that we're going to go along the road up towards Oxglen, near an inn, and the Temple of Vulca just directly across it. And the party, having travelled quite a way, decides to bed down. And as they do, they come across a hunter by the name of Eduardo, who manages to slay an elk, and unfortunately has attracted the company of quite a few wolves. The party helps Eduardo dispatch them, who he didn't seemingly notice them, but they were getting closer and closer, and provided quite the threat. The party was really put through its paces there. And in thanks for saving Eduardo's life, Tekavria Tak Nix, the Dragonborn Paladin, decides that he would like he wants the rights to the wolves and their pelts. And if Eduardo could skin them as well, he will. And if we don't come back to collect them, he'll send them to Little Water. So that's pretty good. So I don't know what the purpose of this was. I think it was like for some sort of sheaths, or for his tent, or something. Maybe some clothing, I'm not quite sure. Perhaps just a trophy, or maybe some trade. I don't know, I wasn't there. So the party's bedding down, and as they do, when they wake up the following morning, they notice that Cornelius in particular notices that I have been dragged from my tent. That I haven't just wandered off, I've actually been dragged, and tracks are leading towards the north, even past Oxglen. So we know that the druids hadn't taken me, at least. He considers if I'm worth rescuing, considering the greater good of finding this temple, that we want to put an end to the Tempest, and Tak, who I think has the most personal stake in finding the solution to the Tempest that surrounds the Kingdom of Ostergarth and the Protectorate of Baraka, having actually experienced it for himself, travelling to Little Water, he actually even says, look, that it's, would you want us to leave you in search of this hammer? And he also says as well, and this line tickled me, it is Melee's will that your kneecaps remain attached to your legs. So Cornelius gulps and proceeds then to follow the party across a river and a bridge there that has unfortunately been attacked. There are a few seemingly dead civilians lying on the ground, carts scattered, and items strewn about, and goblins peek their heads up and show themselves. And they go, boss, we've got company. And so a hobgoblin appears, quite a nasty foe for like a level 2 party. Shows up and goes, "Oh, what are you waiting for? Deal with them!" And so combat begins. So Rakanar pounds his chest and launches himself at these goblins. Tack following suit, and Cornelius is behind a car, not cowering as such, but he's trying to drag one of the bodies there to see if they're breathing. And from what the party can understand is that actually all 3 of these NPCs, 2 females and a male, are seemingly living, perhaps unconscious but breathing at least, mostly stable. Yeah, there was a hobgoblin and 5 goblins against these 3 guys, and they do a really good job. This fight pushes them to the limits, and I mean, goblins aren't particularly strong, but when you consider there's 5 of them, and they can surround you on this bridge that only has about 3 squares going down, like 3 vertical squares. That's a total of 15 feet that you've got to maneuver, and these carts are actually placed in such a way where I think really the goblins have an advantage. Anyone on the offense is at a disadvantage trying to break through and go around and consume movement. But despite having used a lot of resources, the party does eventually succeed. Cornelius, speaking Goblin, I believe, tells them that it's not worth it to stay. Run away, and his final gambit is to summon the head of a hydra as if it's looming over the edge of the bridge, and even the hobgoblin says, this isn't worth it, let's go, and they retreat, they scupper. So the party now on this bridge is going to look over the survivors, and they find that excuse me, just need to find the names. Find out that the bloke there is by the name of Grigori. He's a male survivor, and he has 2 daughters by the name of Alicia and Carla. And they were travelling home on the way to Oxglen, and they had heard rumours of danger and of people going missing, but unfortunately they only thought these were rumours. And they may even look at hiring a bodyguard in future. Now the people are pretty nervous here, but Cornelius takes out his flute and starts playing a nice soothing song for everyone, and he rolls a nat 20 plus 3 religion to feel himself get lost in the music, and it builds, it swells, it dips, it meanders, and through it he feels like something is igniting in him, but he can't quite place his finger on it. And so Tack and Rakanar heal HP, 6 HP. Also as well, Tack uses his medicine skill, a nat 20 plus 1 to put pressure on the slashers, staunching wounds, using herbs from his pouches to stop the bleeding, and ultimately these people eventually leave safely. But not before being asked. They've come from the Little Water on the way to Oxglen. They're asked if they've seen this rock gnome commissar, and unfortunately they haven't anything yet. And so Rakanar does suggest, look, this family hasn't got a whole lot. Their supplies have been ruined. Perhaps if they were to have the wolf pelts, they could, maybe they could sell them off and get some money to at least rebuild their lives. And although Tack would like to keep the pelts, he is willing to escort the family home. They decide that they're not going to leave. They just don't want to. They don't want to spend too much time out here in this one spot to leave the commissar to the wilds. I do like that phrase, to the wilds. It's like to the winds. older than the winds, or to the winds, scattered to the winds. Anyway, so the temple decides to continue their journey toward the Temple of Ulka until they reach a crossroads. And this is where we find Oxglen. Civilization mills around this this once trading post that's now kind of grown quite considerably. There are farmsteads outlying, and caravans out to towns like Denmarsh or Greece. Now, I don't know if it was Greasold or Greeshold. Greeshold. I think it was Greeshold. I can't remember. Greasold. Greasold. So Grigori says that he'll be fine on his way out, from here on out. The party continues, and the party cannot take money for the deed. However, we do learn that Grigori owns a general store, and if we stop by, he may give us a discount, so that'll be rather nice. And we will soon find out how much money we've got to spend there. So Oxglen used to be a trading post that grew into a town, and is nowhere near as extensive as Denmarsh, which I think is like a port town. But it seems to be like a pretty decent place, considering it's in the bush. Yeah, mostly a farming town more than anything else. So the group moves towards the inn near the temple, having found a nice little place. Seemingly friendly enough. There's a nice well with lots of what do you call those? Like not flower pots, but like those planters. You know, it's got some like nice sort of like garden features and such. And yeah, seemingly nice lawns and fairly spacious place. And the party's welcomed in, and they seem to find that Rakanar, using a survival check, manages to find that the tracks that I've been dragged from lead to around this area, but this is sort of where they seem to stop. So the search can continue once the party's had a nice rest in this place. The inn appears to be well lit and is inhabited from the outside, and it doesn't seem untoward. So Rakanar and the group are welcomed in by Richard the Innkeep, asking if they're staying the night, and Cornelius says that and Cornelius is told that we get a free hot meal if we do stay the night. How delightful. I've actually put that in my notes. How delightful. So Cornelius also as well, I think making up to me now that I'm in the chat, is asking, you wouldn't happen to have seen someone dressed as a commissar of the Kingdom of Ostergarth, would you? The Innkeep doesn't think he has. So Ian said asked for the menu and said, no worries, then we'll have something to eat. And our DM, now they've done this before, and I don't know where they get their menus from. Either they've rolled on a table, they've taken it from elsewhere. Some of these things sound quite strange though, and I think is this just like a random generator or something like that? So, boiled sausage and chestnut bread is recommended with ale. Okay. Stewed mutton and watercress. I don't think that would be very filling, but it's also recommended with stout. There's a roast mutton and blue cheese, which is apparently a delicacy around those parts, and is recommended with a stout. And boiled eggs and wheat bread, recommended with cider. Now, I wish I was there, because I do love myself a good cider. Tak asks, Dragon Ball Paladin asks if Cornelius, the human bard, if he drinks. And apparently Cornelius needs to keep his wits about him. And he turns to Rakanar and says, "My lad, I bet you could probably put back an ale or two." And apparently Rakanar and the Professor used to have quite a few nights of drinking, this half-orc barbarian. Yeah, and you can sort of imagine, because he's quite a strong, tall chap, so yeah. So the players are having a lot of conversation, and I think the DM is actually trying to cut through it by saying, the food arrives, and they all have to roll Constitution saves. Now, quick a quick diversion here. There is an adventure from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition called the Apocalypse Stone, and like, oh, missed my bin. There was an inn that the party goes to, and the pork buns are recommended. And you could tell when the editors like sort of stepped in and said, we can't sell this if you make the players eat the pork buns, because they're actually made of the people who served at the end. So so that's what I was thinking. It's like, oh god, they're rolling Constitution and they're going to eat people. No, that's not quite how it happens. It is actually quite similar to something that happens in Curse of Strahd, though. The players have to eat the food, and Cornelius rolls a natural 20 plus 2, so 22. Rackenar only rolls a 9. Takavir rolls a 12. Racken attacks heads sort of start spinning and they fall onto the table, and Cornelius is finishing a joke. I sort of love these jokes where like it's not really a joke in itself. It's more just like you only catch the punchline of it. So like, our DM says that he's finishing a joke saying that's not a gun, that's my wife. People start to gather around him as a previously seen noble appears, and other people as well start showing up and hit him over the head with a club. With a club. And everyone has now taken a long rest, for they find themselves in some rather comfy beds, at least under ordinary circumstances. Unfortunately, these circumstances are anything but. The party finds themselves chained up, and just bear with me while I found. Yeah, there we are. Bound up in bed, and there's only 2 people in each room. So Cornelius wakes up next to Takavir rather, and Rackenar wakes up next to me, unconscious, and that is where we end session 2. Quite well timed as well, because like that session went on for about a good nearly just over 2.5 hours. So we did well to end before like 3 hours, which is like the sort of agreed upon time that we wanted to finish. So yeah, it was really good. But now we're on to session 2.5. The session begins with Takavir breaking the chains restraining him on the bed, and then he breaks Cornelius' chains. Tak finds all the equipment in a footlocker at the end of the bed, and Cornelius follows suit. Rackenar wakes up in another room and finds an unconscious Commissar in a bed next to his own, and both are chained up. Rackenar breaks his own chains with his barbarian strength, and then breaks my own character, the Commissar Katusha Lustgau's, Rocking Martificer, just as a reminder, and checking her vitals. And she seems stable, but right now just unconscious, probably snoring far more than her size would suggest that she could. So everyone seemingly has their equipment on them, or at least in their rooms. So Rackenar breaks down the room with his mighty axe and throws the Commissar over his shoulder. I actually prefer the idea that she just tucked under his arm. But over his shoulder is just as good, to be honest. Yeah, and he also as well, he was very kind. This is why Rackenar's quite honestly becoming one of my favourite characters. He also took my equipment for me as well, thank you. And so I'm just trying to find out where I am. Oh yes, and as everyone's leaving, Rackenar and Tak in particular, they hear this deafening psychic scream, which Cornelius strangely doesn't hear. Tak does the honours of smashing the room, the door that he and Cornelius are in, and they enter a long hallway to find Ragnar and the Commissar over his shoulder. Now, I think it's because it's quite dark, they don't quite see what's going on, and so I think this is where I managed to join in, so quite early on. And I just hear these sort of two parties of the party just shouting at each other like, "Don't shoot! Like, stand down! It's me, you fool!" And it's like, "Don't attack! Don't shoot!" So it's all that. Very funny indeed. So eventually they find out that that they're all friendly. There's no hostiles nearby. Okay, so they all start hearing whispers in his mind. Tak and Ragnar make conversation on the mental scream they heard, and Tak cautiously opens a door that leads to an office where the party cautiously searches the room. And this is where I was just about to get ready to go on the bus and home, where IDM says, so the Commissar is still unconscious for the next 30 to 45 minutes. So they find a safe, and Cornelia says, "Hey, that's where they took our money," not having checked if our money had actually been taken or not. But hey, there's a safe. There's probably money in it. Who get a probable cause to rob the place, right? So, yeah, I think we've asked every session like, how does Cornelius Player come up with this stuff, and it is brilliant how he does. He asks Takavir to smash the safe with his hammer, and succeeds by just denting it, I think, just enough to cause the door to bend open. And inside, the party finds 200 gold pieces. So that's about 50 gold pieces each. So Cornelius places it into his sack into his belt for safekeeping, and he doesn't actually count the full amount until later on, until after the end of the first combat. But it looks to be about 200 gold there. So he takes it. Meanwhile, Takavir looks at a logbook that ends 2 weeks prior to our revival. Doesn't really mention anything unless the DM had whispered Tak's player about this. Now, Ragnar hears a psychic mental scream again, but doesn't know where it's coming from or why it's happening. Tak opens another set of doors that lead to a seemingly dead end, and it doesn't seem right. Like this doesn't make sense from like a structural point of view. Like, why would you have this room that doesn't do anything? So they start looking around, and they're cautiously stepping around to help in the investigation, but Cornelius accidentally triggers a switch that leads to the proper cellar of the inn. It was like a stone, so they're looking for this stone that will try and like open the store again. Now, I thought this was a map that I had designed, because I wasn't there to look on Roll20, but I designed a map of like an inn cellar. I was like, oh right, hang on. So this secret entrance, so this is like a button that's going to open a secret part of this room, right? Apparently this is not it, and I thought, oh yeah, the smell, yeah, this is definitely my room. It's like, no, it wasn't. It's just a shame, but hey, fair enough. So anyway, yeah, so this secret room is now discovered, and it reeks. It smells of filth. It smells of just generally foul, like decay, feces, God only knows what, like just general sewage. And once again, these psychic screams are hearing out, like crying out to Tak and Ragnar. Unfortunately, Cornelius and Tak are sickened. I think they actually have like the disease condition or something like that. Basically, disadvantage on certain attacks, or skills rather. So Rakanar seems unaffected though, he's stiff upper lip and all that. And me, seemingly unaffected as well. Tak cures himself and Cornelius of their sickness by using Lay on Hands. So if you expend 5 points of your Lay on Hands ability, you can either cure like 5 hit points, you can either get 5 hit points back, or you can remove, I think, disease and poison. So that was awesome. Well done. I'm not gonna lie. If I think if I was a paladin, I'd probably be a lot more sparing about that. But yeah, very good stuff. Just bear with me. I'm trying to read the notes now. So Rakanar now enters this room that's quite foul. Has this sort of like yellowish sludge around. It really doesn't look as if it's really like man-made. It seems very natural. And as they start wading around in this filth, trying to sort of look for anything, any clues as to what this place is or why anything is here, tentacles emerge from the sewage. Another psychic scream pierces the minds of Tak and Rakanar, and a baby Otyugh emerges. Otyughs I have faced in Baldur's Gate, and they are not fun. They really are not fun at all. Yeah, like they live in sewage, and yeah, they seem to have like grapple attacks and ranged and like really like reach attacks, really long reaching attacks for these things. And yeah, and I'm glad this was just a baby. Although the party didn't really know that, other than it was screaming and angry, and they live in sewers. So so Rakanar's essentially on his like the furthest away from anyone, and this baby Otyugh lunges out and slashes him with I think his claws or his tentacles. Now Tak's rushing into the room to try and help, and Cornelius remains at the door, peeking his head out while readying his crossbow. Tak manages to hit the Otyugh with his hammer and smites him, throwing the beast across the room and slamming him into a wall. With I think it was like it was some sort of like thunder smite or something like that maybe, and it can be heard 300 feet away. So this sets off something of a chain reaction, causing enemy forces upstairs to start to descend, although we didn't know that at the time. And yeah, so Cornelius heals Rakanar with some magic and mocks the baby Otyugh by throwing up with vicious mockery, saying, "That's the ugliest thing I've ever seen! Kill it! Kill it! Kill it!" Rakanar uses his axe and hits the monster, popping some pus out of it. The monster lunges at Rakanar and misses him, but a tentacle swings around and wraps around his leg. Tak slams on his shield on the ground and takes cover behind it as he concentrates to attempt psychic communication with the beast. But the beast does not respond to this attempt. Cornelius hits the beast with bolts from his crossbow and yells to Tak to smash it with his hammer. Rakanar slashes at the tentacle holding him, nearly severing it, and the monster bites Tak, but his armor isn't breached by the bite, and so therefore the poison doesn't quite penetrate, thanks to a successful Constitution saving throw. So Cornelius, seeing Tak in trouble, looks down the hall and back into the room where the fight is happening. He does this twice, then he drops his crossbow to the ground and full sprints towards Tak to heal him while yelling to Rakanar to finish the beast with a bardic inspiration. Rakanar screams in rage and cuts the tentacle holding him, and charges the beast and brings his axe full swing down on top of the baby Otyugh, slicing its head completely in two, exposing the innards of the Otyugh's head to the world. There's a lot of creative language in this, I have to say. So at the end of the combat, like I wasn't over Rakanar's shoulder this entire time, although that would have been very funny. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to use his great axe. I was like just outside of the hall, left there, and I ask, what the hell is going on? To which the party says, you don't want to know. Tak enters the room, looks around to see if anyone else is here, and why we were we going to be like a sacrifice to this thing or what? But unfortunately, other bones and skulls are found in the murk and the muck, and it is revealed that others have been perhaps sacrificed to this thing, or at least eaten by it. So Tak decides to pay his respects to the baby Otyugh. Not sure if it was a baby or not, but still, he wanted to try and avoid combat if it was possible. So we continue our path, looking now for an exit, and we find an altar with several figures. There's two sort of like black-robed cultists and one red-robed cultist, and some statues in the corners as well, and an altar with a dagger upon it. And the lead cultist says that blood will be spilt, Our Lady shall have her suffering, and Rakanar, like, not really waiting to let them finish their talking or anything, like, he just takes a javelin out, just tosses it right at them, and he manages to hit one of them in the shoulder, and Tax tells them to come at me. And so he charges at one of the fanatical cultists, and he runs up the altar, but unfortunately he trips up and falls prone. And in response, another cultist comes in and charges, runs down the steps and stabs Tak before retreating into one of the corners of the room. Another cultist runs up and attempts to stab Rakanar, but misses, and Cornelius uses a minor illusion on the fanatical cultist, the red-robed one, to try and mimic their lady's voice by telling him to spill the blood of friends, comrades, family, and enemy alike. She cares not from whom or for whom blood or suffering comes from. Seemingly had no effect. So me finally able to actually do something. I just run in and try and take a pot shot at the lead cultist, but unfortunately I miss. Another cultist rushes to me and slashes me for like 6 points of damage to begin with. So that ain't good. And so Rakanar is now trying to go like one-on-one. So we've all at least like got one target that we could be going for. I think Rakanar's actually got 2 on him. And he manages to slash one of the cultists in front of him with his from his shoulder across to the opposite hip. Actually dropping him successfully. Tak picks himself up and walks to the fanatic in anger, with flames emitting from his mouth as he unleashes fire upon the fanatic with his red dragon breath, which is awesome. It's like a fire attack, and I think this fanatic manages to just like bring his cloak around or something like that, or some other weapon, or his scimitar, to actually like point the flames into the statue harmlessly, but he does still take some of the damage from it. So now, where am I? Yeah. So while Cornelius is at the door where all this is happening, he hears additional footsteps down the hall and sees another group of cultists about to rush the room, and Cornelius is just saying they missed some note taking here because he had to take a quick break. That's fine. So he's starting to see like these reinforcements now pooling in. Like there's a good like 6 or 8 people here that are now just slowly but surely reaching this room where everything's going on. Like Cornelius is going to have to make a run for it. Around this time, Rakanar has hold person cast upon him by the lead fanatic. They seem to have like a cleric spell loadout with a spiritual weapon, flavoured as a flail, as a bear trap, which is a flail. and whole person. They use whole person to paralyze Rakanar. And unfortunately, he's like this for about a good round or two, and that's no good at all when like he's practically like our best damage dealer. And unfortunately, Tak's taken some wounds from the Fanatic. I think around this time he's actually lost his Warhammer rolling in that one because our DM uses crit fumbles, which I hope don't remain in the game when we reach level 5 when we have extra attack, because that means then you're actually less effective. You have more chance to fail, but we'll see. It might be worth talking about that. So around this time, so Cornelius looks around the room, sees the chaos, Rakanar being restrained, and just trying to find out where we are now. Oh yeah, so Cornelius, quite acrobatic, he leaps over the pews and he runs up to the altar, like dives over it, and manages to cure wounds upon Tak. So, having been attacked by this cultist, I run between this cultist's legs that just flash with the commissar. It's like, "You dare attack your commissar!" and just stab him in the kidneys. But the cultist manages to slash me down on the next go, and our TM is quite surprised by this. Like, what, you're down already? Like, I took 6 damage, and I took 8 damage. Like, you're down already? I'm like, yeah, I only have 14 hit points. And I think our DM, if they knew that if they remembered that I'd been hit once already for that much damage, they may well have actually cut down the number of times, the number of hit points that would have done to me. Because I believe that they do pull punches for my sakes. And fair enough, it's low level. You don't really want to lose your characters as soon as you've got them, It's why a lot of people say that level 1 is the hardest level in the game, because you don't have those resources, you don't have that ability to shrug off attacks. You can do more. Enemies do more damage to you than you can take in terms of max hit points, and you don't even have the sort of thing that can help you with death saves. Unless, I don't know, you've got a Cleric of the Grave, maybe, like Garveld Grimhammer, Cleric of... In the Service of Killenvor, Lord of the Dead, the German Klingslayer. Anyway, so, moving on. So I just go down at this point. The Fanatic shoots a fireball. I don't think it was a fireball, it was a firebolt, maybe, sort of cantrip, at Rakanar, and he dodges it, thankfully, having escaped from his paralysis. As he attacks the cultists, Cornelius hides behind Tak, and as he smashes the Fanatic cultist with his hammer. Cornelius then fires his crossbow at a Fanatic, hitting him. Rakanar, in his rage, charges across the room and throws his axe at the cultist leader, pinning him up against the wall, and the Fanatic's body just goes limp immediately, not getting any final words whatsoever. He digs his axe out of the corpse of this Fanatic leader and starts to turn to the rest. Tak then recites ancient words, and a cultist has his life force seemingly sucked out of his body by Toll the Dead, which is... I'm really glad Tak took Blessed Warrior fighting style for Paladin at 2nd level. It's a really good one, especially with like Sacred Flame and Toll the Dead. They're just nice to haves, really. And they target different saves as well, like Toll the Dead especially. D12 on a damaged target, Wisdom saving throw. How many creatures have a high Wisdom? Beasts, maybe. That's really about it though. Druids as well, Druids will have high Wisdom. So. Three cultists. Okay, yeah. So now, as this is going on, like, Rakanar's in quite a bad position now because he's got loads of cultists swarming in through the room, and he's got like 3 of them at once. Tak tries to reinforce him, and Cornelius is trying to also like get close as well. Rakanar, I'm sort of just abstracting some of this now for the sake of time. Rakanar is also very generous in popping open a healing potion and giving it to me as a bonus action, so I get some health back. And eventually we start cutting through these forces when Cornelius shouts to them, look, there was something else he says. There's something he says here, and I don't know where it is. But he says that, look, if you want blood and suffering, you will have it, but it will be yours. You have a chance. Walk out that door now. You have a chance to live. Go, please. And they take no heed. Tak uses some of his final vestiges of his dragon breath to destroy 3 of the cultists all in one blow. And I think we're left to like 2 now. So, Rakanar manages to destroy another one. And, yeah, I think he manages to just destroy him just in time. And I managed to kill something. I got really excited about this, going, I killed something! And, yeah, I got really excited. So, because I haven't actually killed anything, I don't think I've actually hit anything until this point. I basically, like, climb up the body of this cultist, grab by the collar, and just, like, hanging on, just swinging around, just stabbing away with this dagger, and then eventually climb down just before my hat falls off, and I catch it and compose myself, clean the dagger, put it away. And so, combat, it just about ends there. Cornelius looks in horror at the power that Tak has called upon the Toll the Dead to call upon seemingly unnatural and possibly dark powers to slay his enemies. Well, that's a good way of looking at it. Toll the Dead, I've always used as like it's fine, but yeah, especially with like the Raven Queen, I think things can be a bit dodgy there. I'm not overly familiar with Raven Queen lore, unfortunately. The final cultist, yeah, that's dealt with, and yes, Cornelius' player managed to get the numbers. There are 9 cultists that the party has killed in total. Yeah, scattered across the room in various states of dismemberment and decay in some in some cases. We loot the bodies and we find some interesting things. Tak finds a vicious dagger. Now, I'm not overly familiar with what this does. But let me just have a look, because like, I think it did like 2d6 on a... it's still a 1d4 dagger, but it does like 2d6 on that 20, or it does like a +7 damage on... Or it's a 1d4 +7 damage, I don't know. Pretty powerful thing, and Tak does offer it to me, but I say no. I'm fine with the scimitar that I picked up. Which I will use to... I'll just ask about in Oxglen, if anyone recognises this make of scimitar. So, we find a total of 57... we find enough coin to split between us as 57 gold pieces and 5 silver. So that's with the 200 gold from the previous room. So, we've all got plenty of cash to pull together. So... let's have a look further. Yeah, so now we're just investigating the rest of the rooms at the inn. So we go back to the top. Well, we do actually manage to find out where the wishing well leads, and it's just water. There may be disease in there, but no one seems to be overly affected. We all have a bit of a cleaner, except I think Cornelius. And we go into the storeroom, and we look for... and we just look for some supplies in this hidden room where the cultists have come from. And there are some decent supplies there, seemingly untampered and fresh. So we all managed to get some rations. And so we then go upstairs to the inn proper, and there's no one there. Like, everyone that was downstairs that we'd killed was upstairs when the rest of the party, except me, had gone to the inn disguised as ordinary people. So, Rakanar and Cornelius help themselves to drinks. Tak looks around and doesn't really find anything of interest, except for the kitchen, which is full of food, which Rakanar also helps himself to. But he also finds as well the sleeping potions that we used on our characters. when they were knocked out. So he decides that he's going to take those, and I think he's got about like 2 doses worth of this stuff. And also as well, yeah, he finds the lavatories, otherwise known as the poop closets. At this point, our characters decide that we're going to take a rest. Everyone has decided that they've had quite enough adventure for one day. They need to sleep the sleep of the dead, and indeed they do. I will take watch, having slept through an adventure and a half now, and sorry, a session and a half rather. And so I set up the alarm spell and just make sure as well that I patrol as well, just to keep an eye. But before we go to bed, Cornelius manages to find an emblem. It looks like the 8-pointed Star of Chaos, but the north and south points are elongated, and it's also made of a silky texture. And Cornelius finds out that this is a symbol belonging to Lulth, who we don't really know much else other than she's a very dark goddess that we know, or at least a very dark force. So that has given Cornelius something to think about. In the next session, we will continue and ponder a few things, such as if what's happened here is part of something bigger, or if it's just local. If this symbol of Lulth leads to anything. And also as well, we still have our main quest to find the Hammer of Vulca. And that is the end of session 2 and 2.5. Before I end this session recap though, I would like to say a couple of things, only one of which I remember. In the intro, I do describe A Debt to a Friend as being a homebrew campaign. This is not entirely true. A Debt to a Friend does consist of a lot of work from adventures and maps used by other creators. Unfortunately, I can't credit them all because I'm not the creator of this setting. And I imagine it would be a pain for our DM to try and do that. Plus, not to mention the fact that none of us really commercially benefit from this, so there is that as well. It is all just for fun, and all these things are like publicly shared and whatnot. Although obviously I do try to give credit where credit is due, and one such piece of credit I would like to give to is Benjamin Palmer, the creator of several locations and lore bits that are present in A Debt to a Friend. In fact, the combat here was one that I recognised from a one-shot that I was part of. I can't really spoil all that much, and it may have changed, but basically any one-shots that we've done previously, especially Group 89 have done previously, have gone to sort of affect the way the world of the land might be. So our choices have affected this group's playthrough, and our choices here, as this Hydra group that we've considered the name of, not stuck to yet, the High Yield Demolitions and Reconnaissance Agents. We might well affect the adventure of the DM's in-person group, because he's got a load of people who are local that want to learn how to play D&D, or just actually want to play D&D, having been away from it for a while, and want a consistent group. So yeah, so with any luck, he'll have a nice time with that, and yeah, hopefully our changes will be all for the better. And I like the idea of an evolving world as well. But yeah, so some of the content here, such as like this storyline and this storyline with the inn, the location of Denmarsh as well. I don't know about any others, but Denmarsh is from Adventure Awaits Studio by Benjamin Palmer. Do check those out. I do believe that he's actually compiled his once free adventures into a book that you now have to pay for. It's about $30 US, but they are good adventures. especially if you're incorporating into a campaign like this, they don't really stand up on their own unless it's like a one-shot, and even then, you may require some work on your own end. But some of the maps used to be pretty good as well. Yeah, so I mean, just look at my Sword of the Amber Knight video if you want to know about that. And I did also review Sword of the Amber Knight as well on hub pages. But I don't know if that's actually going to be incorporated into this adventure at all. So, yeah, so thank you ever so sorry, I'm dehydrated. Lips are dry. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care, and yeah, I very much look forward to the next session, which we might be playing tomorrow. So we'll have to find out. So I better get my act together if I'm doing these session recaps. So thank you all for watching. Take care. Ta-ta for now.